Yeah. On behalf of organizing committee, once again I welcome all the selected oral presentation participants. Welcome you all, and also I welcome all the review committee members: Dr. Arun Kumar, Dr. Sunita Nayak, Dr. Satyat Prakash, Dr. Raunak from CBCMT V8 Vellore Institute of Technology. Welcome you all. Uh, this is an important session. We have selected totally 16 oral presentations. Today, at this particular session, we have 4 presentations from participants. Each session, we are planning to select one best oral presentation. Now, the session is over to review committee.
So we are starting with the presentation of Dr. Sai Ramesh. So he is an assistant professor from Department of Biotechnology, Welltech High-Tech, Dr. Rangarajan, Dr. Shakuntala Engineering College, Chennai. So over to you, Dr. Sai Ramesh.
Now, please turn it on your mic and video. Please share your screen.
Yes, but I cannot switch on the video. It says that you cannot start your video because your host has stopped it.
Yeah, we could see your slides.
Yes, sir.
So your time for the presentation is 8 minutes. After 6 minutes, I'm going to ring the bell. Thank you. Please carry on.
Finish it off within 6 minutes.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all here. My topic would be evaluation of anti-brucella and in vitro cytotoxicity property of arginalic acid. This is extended work of my master's, which I did it in Vellore Institute of Technology in 2010. So the work has been carried out by my students later in 2017, and it has been on to the publication part right now, and I'm presenting it on behalf of my students. And so the whole presentation will have these subtopics: introduction, research gap, why I have taken it, the study objectives, results, discussion, conclusion with reference and acknowledgement. I call the entire process to be a Tom, Dick and Harry approach because in the further slides, I'll tell you why it is so. So as the title says that we are going to study the arginalic acid property on brucellosis and the cytotoxic property with the lung cancer cell line. So first, let me introduce what brucellosis is. Brucellosis is a zoonotic disease usually being brought to humans through cattle. So I would say that not only virus usually become a dangerous disease, being a COVID pandemic, even bacteria can cause a similar tall death or mortality if it is not being considered or taken a proper care on it. And this particular disease has not caused any deaths till now, but every microbiologist and every life science candidate knows that these microorganisms has the tendency to get mutated very fast. Once such mutation may be lethal at some point of time. And second thing is, everyone know in the last 10 years, most of the antibiotics is not working out. Most of the organisms have become resistant to much of the antibiotics that is already there. So there is a very much need for identifying a natural antibiotic or natural antimicrobial drug so that this can be used in the medical field to counterattack the organisms and control the diseases. So in India, Brucella abortus and Brucella mellitinus are the causative agents for the brucellosis in both humans as well as in cattle. So the lung cancer we move, even in the introductory speech, our chancellor had said that cardiovascular diseases and cancer both are non-communicable diseases, which takes the top 2 positions. And among the cancers, if we take lung cancer, which is usually been not taken care much. Everybody works on skin cancer, blood cancer, and many other cancer. But this particular lung cancer there is not much importance being given in the field of research. Even ICMR says that among the 5 people who gets cancer, 1 person will be with lung cancer. And men are usually prone to get this particular cancer higher than the women. But still, we are not considering this too much onto our research part. With these two things, I wanted to work upon this particular factors using the arginalic acid, which is a multifactorial therapeutic agent. Usually, arginalic acid is being used to treat cardiovascular diseases. It is a cardiotonic which helps in reducing the heart attack. So this is the base idea. With this, I'm writing up the research gap, which I had already told. Brucellosis, a neglected diseases in India, yet to be explored. And similarly, lung cancer, not many people have been giving importance. For both these things, I wanted to work and know whether I can use arginalic acid as a potential therapeutic agent to treat brucellosis and lung cancer. And for the objectives, we had used Agawel diffusion method, and I had obtained the Brucella mellitinus organism from NCAM, NCL Pune. And similarly, the lung cancer was carried out by getting up the cell line from NCCS Pune, which is A549, which is a lung cancer cell line, and performed Agawel diffusion method for antibacterial activity and MTTSA for cytotoxicity. So here comes up the results and discussion. Let me put it up very short. Brucella mellitinus, though when I compared with the control, it is very less, but I'm little happy to see that it do possess certain antimicrobial activity. Why I said I was little happy, because arginalic acid, when we see the previous literature, it has never shown any antibacterial activity, but I could find that it is little sensitive to Brucella mellitinus. And for the IC50 value, we were able to find that 30 mg per ml concentration would work out fine to inhibit 50% of the Brucella mellitinus. This is the result. And regarding the in vitro cytotoxicity assay for the cell line part, we were able to achieve 80% of cell death at 100 mg per ml concentration, and it is nearly 139.90 will be the IC50 value. And this is the control and the treated one. And here is the entire conclusion in one single slide, where the lung cancer was able to have a very high significant result with 80% cell death. However, regarding the anti-Brucella part, the activity is much lesser compared to the control, but still it could be used as a therapeutic agent in treating antimicrobial diseases. And to end it up, I would like to tell that we have extended the work and studied with Tharina asiatica. The synergistic property is good. For the concern of publication and all these things, we have not brought down the result here. But Tharina asiatica, the aqueous extract, along with this particular pure compound at a set proportionate concentration, it is working out really well. And the paper has been submitted, and we are expecting for the publication. Once it is done, it will be discussed. And these are few of the references that has been used for the entire work. And at the end, let me thank my students, SSV and Manoj, who had taken up the work and did it to this particular extent. And I also thank my management, principal, and head of the Department of Vailtech High Tech for giving all the opportunity to work there. Thank you. Any queries? And this thing is there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, Satya Prakash, please unmute your, yeah.
Yes. So there are questions from the audience as well. So
Yes, sir.
have you collected the commercially or extracted from the plant? So that the question is from the Badal Kumar. So question once again, have you collected it commercially or extracted it from the plant? Yeah, please go ahead.
It is being collected from the plant. The work was being carried out in VIT under Dr. Thangamani ma'am. So the plant has been brought. We have crushed it and have worked in the Siddha Hospital in Ananagar, where we extracted the powder, agenalic acid, and the same has been submitted to NMR, 1H, FTIR, everything. All the results are being published in a paper, Isolation Characterization of Agenalic Acid. It is there in Natural Product Research. It was published in the year 2012.
I have one
Okay.
question.
Yes, sir.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, what is the incidence of this brucellosis, this disease, and what is the relation between this disease and lung cancer? So, there is
There
one
is
question.
yes, sir. There is no relationship. That is why I call the term Tom, Dick, and Harry approach, because all three are not related to any of the thing. All the three have been neglected. If you see brucellosis, not many people know what brucellosis was. Lung cancer, not many people work on it. And argenalic acid is only used for cardiotonic. Nothing more has been explored, or nothing has been used for treatment for argenalic acid. So I had brought all these three together and see whether it worked out. I could see for lung cancer, the results are very good. Whereas in case of brucellosis, the results are not to the expected level, but still, when I work it in the synergistic part, yes, I could see some good results moving out. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. So, lung cancer is a very broad term. So, what sort of cancer are you looking at over there? Like, to be more scientific, are you looking at carcinoma or adenocarcinoma? What sort of things are you looking at?
A general carcinoma, sir. A549 is a general carcinoma cell line. It's an in vivo study. So this has to be taken further for the in vitro process.
No, my
But
question is it, are you looking at carcinoma or adenocarcinoma? What are you looking at?
adenocarcinoma cell line, sir.
Okay.
Okay, one question from my side.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that only MTT assay is enough for saying that it is having anti-cancer effect?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. This is just a preliminary study, because we need not go to the extent and see without having a basic information. So I just wanted to check whether it possesses a activity or not. Now I could see little evidence that it possesses certain activity. Maybe this has to be taken further, and we have completed it in the year 2018, and I'm expecting we are writing for the projects. So if something moves out, then this will be taken to the next level.
If there is no more question, please move
Yes,
on to the next speaker.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we are starting our next oral presentation. So the presenter is the Mohan Kumar S. He's from the Department of Microbiology and Biotechnology, Bangalore University, Janana Bharati campus, Bangalore. So over to you, Mohan Kumar. And you have 8 minutes for the presentation. After 6 minutes, I'll ring the bell. Please go ahead.
Yeah, very good morning, all. So I'm Mohan Kumar. Yes, the topic is all about is production and extraction of chitin and chitosan biomaterials from the coprophilous mushroom Coprinopsis cinerea and characterization of their physicochemical and biological properties. So firstly, I would like to thank the CBCS for giving me this opportunity, and I thank Savita Janaki Raman, my guide, for this for guidance throughout this work. So as we all know that chitin and chitosan have great applicability in biomedical and biotechnological fields because of their non-toxic, biodegradable and biocompatible nature, and also have antimicrobial and antioxidant properties. The most common source of chitin and chitosan is a crustacean's shell. However, mushrooms are an alternative source for isolating biopolymer. So the main objective of this research was to isolate chitin and chitosan biomaterials from the coprophilous mushroom Coprinopsis cinerea through biotechnological methods and evaluating their physicochemical and biological properties. So this is what the objective I have said: the isolation of Coprinopsis cinerea from host dung, production of mycelial biomass under submerged fermentation, and extraction of chitin and chitosan biomaterials, and characterization of physicochemical as well as biological properties. And these are the methodologies I have set in my research. So I have isolated Coprinopsis cinerea from host dung. So have produced mycelial biomass, and this particular production, so I have used a novel medium, wheat flour broth medium. So this particular medium is a cost-effective medium. So the particular research was published in Journal of Fungal Biology. So once after obtaining the submerged mycelium biomass, I've extracted chitin and chitosan and determined its physicochemical properties using FTIR, TGA, DACDT, XRD as well as SEM. Evaluated antimicrobial and antioxidant properties of chitosan. So coming to the results and discussion, so this is what the strain I have isolated from the host dung, so which was identified as Coprinopsis cinerea through ITS sequencing. And so where I have used a special media for the cultivation of this particular mushroom, where you can see even a growth of mushroom even on the petri plates. And we obtained a very good biomass just using a wheat flour. So nothing else supplement I have used for the production of biomass. And it is a breakthrough in the research. And also I have went for a nutritional and environmental factors on biomass production by OFAT methods, found that sucrose, peptone and pH 6 and 30 degrees centigrade and 2% inoculum as well as 10 days of incubation is most sufficient for the maximum production of biomass using wheat flour brand. So again, so went for Plackett-Bowman design RSM methodology. I have optimized the biomass production by using various factors, and the pH, temperature, nitrogen, carbons are the major factors which are responsible for production of more amount of biomass. So we found that the temperature was found to be a major factor for the production of more amount of biomass. The next factor is nitrogen, that is a peptone what we have used, and pH also supported. Almost 80% of biomass is produced by temperature as well as nitrogen as the major factors. So what I'm going to say in this particular work is that, so we have produced just by spending 20 paise of wheat flour, so we produce around 80 grams of biomass. So that was really a very big breakthrough in the research. And compared to the conventional method, what I have found in RSM method, there is an increase of almost 1.5 fold increase in the biomass. So what I did, once I obtained the biomass, I went for isolation of chitin. So we got around 42.8 grams per 100 grams of biomass. And similarly, the 44.3 grams of chitosan from 100 grams of chitin. So which is really a breakthrough. Just by 20-25 paise, if you, what I have spent for a production of Coprinopsis cinerea, around 42 grams of chitin was obtained as well as 44 grams of chitosan is obtained. And this particular chitin characterized by FTIR, which has been found presence of SIBO group as well as NH group. Similarly, the thermogravimetric analysis was found to be, this is thermostable in nature. So then the XRD and SEM analysis also proved that it is a crystalline property, and the crystallinity index is very less compared to the whatever we have got from other literature. And similarly, the chitosan also extracted from the chitin of Coprinopsis cinerea, and has also been identified using FTIR analysis, found presence of amide group as well as SIBO group. So again, the thermogravimetric analysis has showed that this is the what you call the thermostability nature. So around 80% is retained up to 258 degrees centigrade. So this can be used for a packaging material in future applications. And similarly, the XRD analysis has shown that it is having a crystallinity properties. So what we have done, once obtained chitosan extracted from the Coprinopsis cinerea, we went for antibacterial activity by taking escape pathogens. These escape pathogens of 6 different bacteria: Enterococcus faecium, Staphylococcus aureus, Klebsiella pneumoniae, Acinetobacter baumannii, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Enterobacter cloacae. So these escape pathogens are multi-drug resistant bacteria, and based on our multi-drug susceptibility test, we found that it is resistant to more than 3 antibiotics. So what we found that our chitosan extracted from Coprinopsis cinerea has shown very good antimicrobial activity against all the 6 bacteria, among which Staphylococcus aureus is so more susceptible to the chitosan compared to other bacteria are used. And similarly, went for microbial dilution for minimum nutrient concentration development. Around 3.12 mg is sufficient. Around 3.12 to 6.25 mg per ml is more sufficient for killing our escape pathogens. And also went for antioxidant properties using DPPH analysis as well as reducing power properties. Compared to the control Coprinopsis cinerea, of course, the EC50 value is 6.20 mg, but still, so it is a good material to be used as antibacterial obtained from the Coprinopsis cinerea. To summarize, the chitin and chitosan biomaterials were isolated from the mycelium of Coprinopsis cinerea. The crystallinity index of the chitin and chitosan extracted was found to be 57.48% and 51.35%. And the scanning electron microscope showed it has got nanofibers on their surfaces. And the TG analysis showed the maximum degree temperature is 378 degrees centigrade and 388 degrees centigrade. The deacetylation property of chitosan was found to be 80.28%. And similarly, the biological activity against the antimicrobial activity against escape pathogens was found to be, very comparable compared to other chitosans were used in the study. And similarly, in future, the chitin and chitosan extracted from Coprinopsis cinerea can be used as a packaging material and also used in various biomedical applications. And these are all the references what I have taken. Thank you.
So thank you for the presentation, Mohan Kumar.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question. So this question is from the audience.
Yeah.
So from S. Devi Lakshmi. So
Yeah.
sulfur is rich in mushroom. Okay.
Yes.
So does it increase the immunity?
Sulfur, sulfur containing amino acids also there, but definitely it will not increase the immunity. So sulfur again, is it a dangerous element? But although the sulfur containing amino acids we have got with us, but it is again a toxic element, sulfur.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, Mohan, how do you compare the chitin isolated from or chitosan isolated from this mushroom species versus the regular isolation from crustaceans? How do you compare the quality?
We have when in compared to the biological activity wise, whatever the chitosan was extracted from us found to be more active compared to the other crustaceans. In fact, we have taken chitin from a crab source. So that particular chitin is not that effective in case of as well as antioxidant in respect to antimicrobial activity. But our chitosan extracted from Coprinopsis cinerea was found to be more effective in that way. And also the deacetylation property, that is one particular property. So we have around 80% deacetylation property. So whatever commercially is available just found around 70 to 75% acetylation property. So we have around 80% of deacetylation property. So that is one comparative studies what we have done. So based on all this, we say that the chitosan obtained from Coprinopsis cinerea by us is good in food packaging material as well as other biomedical applications.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
The antimicrobial property, what you have, I mean, the experiment you have done, what was
Yes,
the extract? Whether it is an aqueous extract or it was alcoholic extract?
No, it is a chitosan, madam. So chitosan or
Dissolved
extracted,
in? Dissolved in?
ma'am,
Chitosan dissolved in
acetic acid, madam.
acetic acid. And
Yeah,
what
acetic acid.
control?
So what? So control what we have used is a chitosan obtained from other commercially available chitosan. So that is also solubility. So this distillation is mainly for the solubility purposes. So we have used chitosan itself as a comparative study for the biological activity.
Okay.
I do have a small question. Have you done any texture analysis on the images that we have observed from chitosan?
Yeah,
Some images?
yes, sir. So some images, what we have done, the last slide, what I have showed you that. So it has shown a nanofiber kind of structure. So this is for the chitosans and images. So this is for the nanofiber kind of structures. So and so this is one property of a chitosan. So normally,
But how do you say nanofibers? Have you done any analysis on those? Any texture analysis or
no,
any
it is just a
image
comparative.
processing?
No, image processing. No, sir. It is with a comparative study with other sources. So, but not actually the nanofiber studies. Research has not been done.
Okay.
So we are running out of time. So we'll start our next poster presentation, oral presentation. So the next we have Shivaji Kashte. He's from the Department of Stem Cells and Regenerative Medicine, Center for Interdisciplinary Research, D.Y. Patel Education Society, Kolhapur. So after 6 minutes, I will ring the bell. Your total time is 8 minutes. So over to you, Shivaji.
Yeah. Please go ahead. We did see your presentation earlier. So now we're not able to see your presentation. Yeah, hi Shivaji.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you please share your slide?
Yes, sir, sure.
Earlier we could see your slides. First time when you...
Okay, sir, just... Yeah, right now you can see, sir.
Yeah, we can see your slides. Please carry on.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. Myself, Shivaji Kaste. I will be sharing here some of my research aspects along with Dr. R.K. Sharma and Dr. Sachin Kadam. The topic is layer by layer decorated herbal cell compatible scaffolds for bone tissue engineering. So why particularly bone tissue engineering? We all know that bone is a fragile tissue, and these numbers show that how bone regeneration is difficult. So this is how bone tissue engineering can be carried out, or bone regeneration can be carried out using different cell sources, growth factors, and different scaffolds. So what we have done, we have used human umbilical cord derived mesenchymal stem cells for this particular bone tissue engineering. We have isolated these mesenchymal stem cells by using collagenase and DisPase2 enzyme systems, and we have later used these stem cells for in vitro studies. So we have synthesized particular PCL scaffolds by using electrospinning, and we can see that in FESM images particularly, these scaffolds are porous in nature. So we have modified these PCL electrospoon scaffolds by layer method to modify its surface. So we have used GEO, that is graphene oxide, and also GEO and CQ, that is Cissus quadrangularis plant extract particularly. So we have prepared solutions of GEO and GEO CQ 1 ml 1 mg per ml solutions, and then we dipped these particular electrospoon PCL scaffolds into these respective solutions for 1 minute and air dried. So these are particularly LBL PCL GEO and LBL PCL GEO CQ scaffolds. When we checked for its physicochemical characterization, we can see that all these scaffolds are porous in nature, and also they depicts a rough surface. So in FESM images, we can see that though as compared to electrospoon PCL scaffolds, their porosity is slightly reduced, but their fiber structures, we can see its roughness. And also we can confirm it by AFM that the root mean square roughness is increased by layer surface modification, in particularly PCL GEO CQ scaffolds. Then we checked for its FTIR. In FTIR, we can see that the addition of GEO and GEO CQ, it's in there, and we can see that it is contact angle, that is hydrophobic PCL scaffolds has become hydrophilic PCL GEO and PCL GEO scaffolds when we have modified its surface by adding GEO or GEO CQ. Then once physical characterization is done, we wanted to check its biochemical properties. So we have seeded isolated mesenchymal stem cells into the scaffolds for 24 hours and analyzed by FESM for cell attachment. And we can see that the cells are attached well on the scaffolds, showing favorable morphology, and also we can see the development of philopodia there. After cell attachment, we wanted to study the metabolic activities of the cells, and we can see that from day 1 to day 7, the cells are in progressive manner, and highest number of cell viability or cell proliferation is in the day 7 for PCL GEO CQ scaffolds. So after metabolic activities, we wanted to check the spontaneous differentiation of these mesenchymal stem cells onto these scaffolds. So for that purpose, we seeded these stem cells into scaffolds for 14 days and 21 days with osteoblastic differentiation medium and without osteoblastic differentiation medium. So ABC scaffolds, that is PCL, PCL GEO, and PCL GEO CQ scaffolds, we have seeded without osteoblastic differentiation medium. And in 14 days and after 21 days with alizarin red staining, we can see that the red color formation is there. It means there is formation of mineralized matrix there. So we can see that whatever mesenchymal stem cells we have seeded there, they have differentiated into osteoblast like cells. So we have again quantified this alizarin staining, and from day 14 to day 21, we can see that the highest number of alizarin red staining is found in PCL GEO CQ scaffolds. It means that whatever stem cells we have seeded on these scaffolds, the PCL GEO CQ scaffolds, it shows the highest matrix mineralizations, that is highest alizarin red staining. So it could be due to the synergistic effect of graphene oxide, that is GEO, and Cissus quadrangularis plant extract. So it clearly indicates that the mesenchymal stem cells, they have differentiated into osteoblast-like cells. We have also confirmed these results with von-Koza staining, and in this also the formation of black spots, it clearly indicates that the matrix mineralization is there, and the highest matrix mineralization is particularly PCL GEO CQ scaffolds. So in summary, we have prepared the PCL GEO CQ scaffolds by layer method. It could be potential herbal biocompatible with osteoinductive in nature. So these porous, rough, and hydrophilic nature and mechanical stable character help these mesenchymal stem cells to adhere, spread, proliferate, and differentiate into osteoblast-like cells without any osteogenic media or growth factors. So this PCL GEO CQ scaffolds, which is prepared by layer method, shows tremendous potential for bone tissue engineering and further studies to regenerate bone tissues. So this particular research is recently accepted in journal Bioactive and Compatible Polymers. So I acknowledge Dr. Sachin Kadam, Dr. R.K. Sharma, and DY Patil Education Society. I also acknowledge VIT for giving me this opportunity. These are the references. Thank you.
So thank you. And there is a question from the audience, from the Gaurav Verma. So
Yes, sir.
what is the digestive time of E1 and E2 enzymes of the bone tissues?
Yes, sir. Just I have clearly indicated in slide also.
Okay. You can repeat it once again. No
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Yes, sir. So particularly for E1 digestion, that is collagenase, we have used 45 minutes digestion time, and for E2, that is trypsin EDTA, we have used 15 minutes. Sir. Hello.
Okay. Yeah. So Dr. Arun Kumar, you can ask the question. Yeah.
So you said layer by layer coating, right? How do you do that? Can you please explain the method of?
Yeah. In this particular layer by layer method, what we have done, we have prepared 1 mg per ml solutions of graphene oxide as well as Cissus contraculus plant extract. And then whatever PCL scaffolds we have prepared by electrospinning method, we have dipped these particular electrospin scaffolds into these respective solutions for 1 minute, and then we air dried it. So such repetitive 60 cycles were performed for the uniform layer of this particular geo in particular LBL PCL geo scaffolds and geo CQ in particular LBL PCL geo CQ scaffolds.
I see. So what is the role of GO, graphene oxide?
Yeah, it is a particular physical stimulus, sir, for osteoblastic differentiations. So whatever the mesenchymal stem cells are there, the particular GEO could provide physical stimulus for its differentiations. Also, GEO can provide, sir, higher mechanical properties, that is stable character for the particular scaffolds. Also, when we add this particular GEO by layer method, it also increases the particular surface roughness of this particular scaffolds, and also it increases the hydrophilicity, sir, in the particular scaffolds.
Okay. So you said mechanical strength, right?
Yeah.
Have you characterized the mechanical strength of the way of all these three scaffolds?
Yes, sir. We have characterized, but I have not shown here due to limited time.
So how much difference was there when you quote?
Sir, nearly it's double, sir. Mechanical strength, morely the tensile strength was morely double, sir, with respect to the PCL scaffolds.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sunita, madam, unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. So why you are calling it layer by layer scaffold? Are you preparing the scaffold like first PCL and then GEO, or it's a blend of like PCL and graphene oxide?
It's not blend, sir. Madam, we have firstly prepared this particular PCL scaffolds by electrospinning method only, and once it is done, then whatever GEO solution it is there, we have added on that particular PCL scaffolds. So layer by layer, that's it. We have added just layers of this graphene oxide, and in PCL GEO CQ scaffolds, we have added one layer of GEO, and on that one layer of CQ. Again, one layer of GEO and one layer of CQ. So it is alternative layer of GEO and CQ.
Absorbed over the scaffold. It's not like you have done electrospinning of GEO.
No. We have added on this particular. That is why it's a layer. We have added this layer of GEO and then CQ on this GEO CQ scaffolds.
And
so I have one more question. Yeah, madam, please carry on. I will ask later. Yeah.
Why do you think that these umbilical cord cells, they are differentiating into bone cells, not to any other cells without any growth factor or any enhancing media?
It could be when we provide some different, we are giving here in control osteoblastic differentiation medium. So it will differentiate into osteoblast. Yeah, but in our scaffolds, we are providing particularly bone forming cells physical stimulus, and that is CQ. It is that is contraculus extract. It is known for bone fracture healing in Ayurvedic references. So that's why we are more concentrated towards the osteoblast cell-like morphology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
So as you are using the graphene oxide, right?
Yes.
So graphene has the better mechanical strength in comparison to the graphene oxide. So as the graphene oxide has the functional groups and the defects, so its mechanical strength is lesser in comparison to the graphene. So why
Yes.
you are not using the graphene and why you are using the graphene oxide? Yeah, that's
So
it.
in our earlier studies, we have used it as graphene also, sir. But what we found that though mechanical properties with graphene is higher, but the osteogenic differentiation, it is lesser with graphene as compared to graphene oxide. Also, sir,
Okay.
cell viability is more as compared to cell viability is more in graphene oxide as compared to graphene also, sir.
Okay. So any other question?
No.
So one more question is from the audience. What is the concentration of graphene oxide you have used?
Sir, it is 1 mg per ml we have used, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so no more questions. So we will close this session. Okay, so thank you, Shivaji.
Thank you, sir.
And to close the session, I will ask the Loganathan sir to please go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
It's my duty to thank all the oral presenters who explained in a very short time, very elaborated manner. Thank you all. All the presentations are very well organized. Thank you all. And also, I would like to thank all the review members, Dr. Arun Kumar, Dr. Sunita Nayak, Dr. Amit Kumar, Dr. Sati Prakash. Thank you all for actively participating and also interacting with all the speakers. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So I have an important announcement for all the participants. This session, nearly 630 people joined for this particular oral presentation session. Please join in the next other oral presentations tomorrow. Tomorrow we have 3 more oral presentation sessions. I think you have received all the information through your email. Today afternoon we have an important brainstorming panel discussion on challenges and management of COVID-19. So this is very important topic today. And also eminent scientists from all over the India as well as from abroad, they are joining live for us to, for this panel discussion. For example, respected Dr. Ravindran, NIPER Director, NIPER Kolkata, he is joining, and also Honorable Vice Chancellor, Madurai Kamarajar University, and CCAMP Director from Taslim Arif, and Professor Vengat from Swansea University, Professor Ganesh Pandian Namachivayam from Japan, Kyoto University, and Dr. Swaminathan Sedu, Scientist Immunology. So these are 6 members, eminent speakers. They are going to discuss what are all the challenges in tackling the COVID-19, and also they are going to discuss why we are facing difficulties in finding out the drugs or vaccines for the COVID-19, and how India is tackling this problem. All these things will be discussed in the panel discussion. The panel discussion will start promptly at 2 p.m. It will go up to 4 p.m. So 2-hour session. It's a very important session. I request all the participants, please rejoin to the next session at 2 p.m. for this panel discussion using the same link. This same link will continue for until tomorrow. Thank you all. So we shall be closing the session now. Thank you all for active participation. Thank you all the participants. Thank you all.